Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Planet Coaster. We're going to be working on a one-off build. This is our build series that we do occasionally here just so we can break up and get something up on the workshop for you guys. That's something that I enjoy and hope that you guys enjoy a lot. So this will enable you to have something new in your parks going forward. What I'm going to be building today is a Hard Rock Cafe. Now, Frontier is actually doing a community meetup in Boston here next week, and I'm actually going to that event. It is at a Hard Rock Cafe, and I kind of just figured, hey, it would be fun to do one of these. Now, the Hard Rock Cafes that I've been to and I have seen are actually usually part of some type of old part of town where everything still kind of looks like older skyscrapers, these very detailed elements. And the first floor is kind of transformed into the Hard Rock Cafe. The upper floor generally will maintain its separate entity of like a hotel that's above that. Sometimes if you have a big enough Hard Rock Cafe in the area, it might be a multiple story thing, but these were and probably still are fairly popular kind of restaurants for people to go out and eat together. Though, in my opinion, the food is a little lackluster. You go there for more, I think, of the experience of the namesake over the actual food itself. But we're going to be starting with a nice stone base and foundation. Now here early on, you guys can see I actually planned out to have an interior, but due to the part count limit of 2,000 pieces, that's not something we're going to be able to actually accomplish, and I had to kind of sadly give that up so that we can upload this to the workshop. But if this was, say, the Cora build, and I wanted to include an interior piece, this wouldn't be the case, This is something that I would have probably taken all the way to about 4,000 pieces or so. And I kind of hope Frontier looks into extending this part cap limit, because really it will allow us to push the envelope on the workshop a whole lot more. So this outer ring here, we're kind of doing what we did in the Raceway coaster station, in the sense that it's going to have a upper covered section over a deck, and we're going with this slightly saucer-like effect going around, and we are using slight angles and square tips just to give a little bit of a flare at the end of these kind of custom roofing tiles. And this just made out of the custom shapes. The custom shapes, of course, being super versatile, and the fact that they don't have much Z-clipping. They still happen, just simply due to dependent on the sun and where your angles are showing, but it's usually because of the edges of each object that makes this smooth surface will actually try and render a shadow. And when it does that, it can actually tend to create some weird lines, but there's not much we can do about that at this stage of the game. Hopefully it might be something they'll continue to work on and kind of expand the technology of the Z-fighting kind of rendering that they have, but for now it's kind of what we get to work with. So the dome is just going to be held up here by some nice, simple, kind of modern posts, and that will just kind of continue all the way around. Now the interior, what I had planned, and there's still room to do this if I wanted to go back in and kind of make a two-part building. Those are kind of hard to do just because people are a little less encouraged, or they just don't want to download multiple part items. Multiple part items, I've just noticed through all my uploads and builds, tend to be less popular because aligning them is a little bit of a hassle, and also trying to get both parts downloaded, even though they might be linked together. Some people just don't read the description, and I don't blame them for that. Everyone's kind of busy, and so they just want a nice, quick, singular item they can plop down in their park. Otherwise, they would just build things themselves, and that's kind of defeating the purpose of having the workshop to begin with. But I wanted to have kind of the food side, the left side here, and then an open bar area on the right. Didn't really get there, so oh well, what are you gonna do besides finish what you can and at least make the exterior look really good. Now, like I said, this is kind of a main street feature here, and I don't know where you guys are going to be putting this in your park, so I don't want to dictate too much exactly of the aesthetics, and I also don't want to dictate what's on the front side or the back side or the left or the right side, simply due to everyone's main streets are going to come from different directions. Everyone is also going to wrap the city block around differently. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the build, but that's just a heads up of what to expect. At this point, I'm testing out some of the loose shapes, and I'm working large here just because it kind of gives me more options to fiddle and change the scale and get things to fit a little bit more clean. But I need to make the actual guitar. Most of the Hard Rock cafes, or pretty much all of them that I've ever seen, will have a Gibson, generally a Gibson guitar up there, and it will be the main sign for the restaurant. And so, as you can see, we're doing the nice simple shape. It has kind of a horn on one side, a nice kind of rounded bit on the other, and then that kind of leads into the bulbous bottom of the guitar. Now, this is actually reversed. There are usually two double-sided signs, so it doesn't matter that this technically is an upside down guitar, simply because that the other side will be the right direction. The reference image I was looking at was actually on the back side of the sign, so that's why I kind of built it upside down initially, but that get fixed kind of later on. You can see, you know, if you rotate this thing a full 180, it will just look like a normal set guitar, and it is a double sided sign, like I said, so ours will feature the same thing. Now, that initial guitar, obviously way too big. It's bigger than almost the building itself. It makes no sense. They usually do have quite the large kind of motif up there, but not that large by any means. So we're remaking this, we're scaling everything down, and since we kind of already established the rough shape, it was kind of a quick little transition here. But I'm going to be detailing a lot of this a little bit off camera. This is kind of the final detail piece, and I wanted to get the building done first. So here in a moment, we'll skip from looking at our little Gibson and move on to something else. And even then, this guitar is still pretty big, and it is going to be aligning one of the corners of the structures here at the end, and you guys will get to see that during the real-time section. So, as I said earlier, these things are usually taking up the first floor, maybe even the second floor of old hotels, and they are fairly large restaurants and bars. The exterior of these buildings are generally still these old style, very, I don't want to say Victorian, I don't know the exact era of building that I'm thinking of, but generally old skyscrapers, old hotels have this nice thick facade going up the building. So each floor having a different kind of detail element that kind of works in unison as you go upwards up to kind of the large crown molding that makes up the roof line. So that's what we're doing here, and luckily, you know, you can kind of just take a piece to the side, make sure everything squares up and lines up, and you're essentially making a tile set doing so. Something that I do suggest doing. This increases your productivity quite a lot, you know, and all I'm doing is just making the first three levels here all the way up to the sky, the roof line, and even the top of the roof itself, and we're just copying this onto the brick facade as soon as that is ready to go. We're using a bunch of different building pieces. We're using doors as windows, we're using archways, and then insetting our own windows inside of them, and you can see it does give you that very old school effect on there. Also want to have, obviously, some keystone corners here. Very common, you know, kind of element, though. If I'm going to go onto the gray brick building, it's only going to be here on the red brick building, and the red brick building also doesn't have any real details on the first two floors. That's going to help you guys hopefully incorporate it into your other Main Street kind of buildings. Also, keep the part count down. so that we can kind of focus a little bit more on getting the front end and most of the upper floors detailed out to the level that I wanted for this structure itself. You'll see here, I'm actually having a hard time aligning a tile to another tile, even though they're both on the same grid. It just wasn't working out. There's a select grid button on the bottom right there. You can see it there a moment ago. And if you're having that problem, hit that button, select the nice grid that you already have established, and it should kind of realign things, because sometimes it switches to the world grid and it doesn't really have a good way of telling you that it's going to do that. This here, very similar to what we just did on the right brick building, but we are making the gray brick building variant, and we are using a little bit more of the exposed stone, allowing that to show through. This side's also going to be a bit taller, and that's going to provide a little bit of a height break. It's almost like these two old buildings that were a duplex at one time are now combined on the first floor, taking up this whole restaurant space. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and finish up a lot of the detailing around the building itself, and then we're going to cut it to real time right about now. Alright, so here we are with the kind of finished Hard Rock Cafe. As I said, it's going to be a street side vendor currently. If you guys want, you can download this blueprint and easily put in an interior. There's plenty of space in here. In fact, that was something that I was mindful when I was making the thing to basically begin with. If we can swing inside, you can see plenty of space, especially on the lower floors. That's why I also didn't do much detailing on the lower two kind of 8 meters, and that's just so that there wasn't much, if any, part clipping involved, and that opens up your interior a lot. And since I didn't expect to use all these upper floors at all, we were allowed to kind of go in, etch into some different details along the upper section. This is kind of like the old hotel style stuff that you'd be seeing. The large guitar here to the right with a Hard Rock Cafe kind of etched in there with some edible signs, and as you can see, our guitar is actually kind of facing the right way now. Or is it this side? Yeah, no, this is the right side of the guitar. So the hump is up there. I believe your volume controls are down here, and your settings up there. I forget. It's been a while since I've actually held a guitar. It's not really my my strong suit. I'm mainly focused on visual things, as you guys can probably tell by now. But what we got is a nice simple half circle covering over a wooden deck out front. You can put your park pathing along here fairly easily. You can even run it underneath the deck itself and get to the two vendors that are down there. You get the old kind of brick building to the right, and another more, I guess, modern brick building to the left, a little bit more gaudy in its design. This one's a little bit more standard box style, each of which will have little cutouts in it, things to create some layers and some different patterns as you go around the building itself. And it's fully wrapped, on all sides, because it's not something that I can really dictate in a park. So I'm not ever quite sure about view lines. So if you're on this side, you can still see the pattern being continued all the way around. If you're on this side, you get the same thing. Obviously, the corners of this one, a little bit more of a grounding kind of element, and then the pushed in interior is a little bit different as well. The guitar at night really lights up. I didn't really have any extra spare part counts. I'm at 1997 total parts right now, so there's no other lights beyond the sign. And I do want to show you guys, I guess, what it looks like at nighttime, because that sign should look pretty cool. Obviously, it is the Hard Rock Cafe. It is really jamming on the left side there, and just the contrast between the restaurant kind of lower floor, the neon signs, and the old style building is such a nice look in my eyes. It's just kind of almost classic Las Vegas kind of feel to it. Anyways, that's it for today's kind of smaller build. This is a one-off thing. You know, it's 2,000 parts. You know, much smaller than our core build that we have on. That's going on 60,000 total parts on the other playlist. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. It is kind of my large project going on at this moment. If you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe for more creative goodness such as this. Hit that like button so I know you guys enjoy Planet Coaster and want to see some more. And I will see you all in the next episode.